and I would like to welcome you all to the UDSv4 submission training here at NEC. So today we're going to go through some highly anticipated features of the new modernized data submission system here at NEC that's going to be rolled out as part of the modernized data platform. And so the agenda for today is we are going to go through, let's just change my slide here. We're going to do a quick welcome and an introduction, and we're going to go through the UDSv4 submission overview. So we're going to look at the new features of the portal has been updated for UDSv4. We're going to talk about the submission types. We're going to show you a live demonstration of the different submission types that are going to be supported in the new portal. And we're going to talk about programmatic uploads, so we'll make sure that you have that information. Then we're going to go through what the next steps are and talk about resources, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. We do have chat open, so if you have any questions you want to pop in while we go through, feel free to do that. I think we're going to probably get to all of those answers at the end, so most likely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this submission and where it fits into the NAC direction as a whole and the timeline here. So this is our ADRC portal and our UDSv4 rollout timeline. And this submission update is happening as part of the modernization of the data set as well as the platform that it's being implemented on. And so this timeline kind of just shows you the UDSv4 implementation. And this is, updating the data that's being collected and stored here at NAC. And we are also currently, as of the time of this training, we are piloting some of these new processes, including the submission. So if you are here attending as part of your ADRC's participation in the UDSv4 pilot, we're going to go through some of the expectations that you might have, as well as talking about data submission as a whole. And at the same time, we're updating the resources so that you have all the tools and information that you need to be able to feel supported through this implementation of the new data collection and the new forms and the new submission site. And right now we're doing the first parts of the ADRC training. Some of those have already been completed by the CTF, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in the slides. And we're going to have ongoing support for the implementation of this new submission system and the ADRC portals and the UDSv4. And then coming on a little bit later down the line, we're going to have some supported translations as well. So look forward to that too. All right, so the first thing we wanted to just share today as part of this training was the resources review. And so these are all of the resources that you're going to have available to help you and your site as you onboard to the new UDSv4 submission site. And so this is going to include information on the NAC website. So on our UDSv4 updates page, you'll be able to see, get all the updates as they come out in hopefully as close to real time as possible. And you'll also be able to now see the UDSv4 forms how-to videos. So this is something that you are piloting, or this will be part of your role at your ADRC. We now have videos for each of the new forms on how to use them, answer some of the commonly anticipated questions for each of the form, and they walk through every single piece of it. And so if you go to the UDSv4 updates page on the NAC website, you'll be able to see the how-to videos by clicking on keeping you in the loop. So they're all listed by form, and each video goes through the entire form. In addition, we also have a documentation website that we're rolling out as part of the submission updates. And that is the website address is here. That's currently being populated, but some of the key pieces, if you are participating in the pilot, are there already, including information about how to set up REDCap at your local site. If you are using REDCap and you want to use the UDSv forms in your local REDCap instance, We also have the API documentation. So if you're looking for programmatic ways to interact with the submission site, that is available there as well. And we'll go through that a little bit later in the presentation today. And so you get to see that. We also have the CTF has implemented a number of webinars already. And so they've shared a lot of the information about some of the changes that are coming out with UDSv4 and some of the things that you can expect. Those are all recorded and available on NAC's website as well. So you'll be able to go to the ADRC webinars page and see all of those, as well as any other content that's been developed by NAC and partners to support this effort as well. If you need immediate tech support as you go through or have questions about, something's not working the way you think it's supposed to be, or you have access issues, we do have a dedicated tech support email for getting help with issues like that. It's nachelp@uw.edu. In addition, if you are part of the pilot, we are piloting a moderated forum where ADRCs will be able to interact with each other as well as with NAC staff. And that is hosted on a platform called Discourse. And if you are a pilot user, you'll be invited at this time. If you're not a pilot user or pilot point person at your ADRC, this will be rolled out when the full submission site gets rolled out later in the fall. But here's the website for that. And then starting in August, NAC will also be hosting bi-weekly office hours. And so those will be available for sign up on the website, and you'll be able to log into a Zoom meeting and ask questions of NAC staff on things like REDCap issues or discourse and moderated forum issues or the data platform or the forums themselves. So we'll have members of NAC's research team and the tech team and our REDCap administrators, as well as some of our communications team members as well, so that you'll be able to ask questions and get answers live. And also see what kind of questions other people have if you just want to come in and see what people are asking. So those are all of our resources that are planned and or already available. So you'll have those going forward. All right, so the next thing we wanted to do is just kind of start walking through the portal at a high level, and then we'll get into a live demo so that you can see what the new updated portal looks like and how, exactly what clicks you're going to have to click through in order to use the submission site, whether it's for the pilot or going forward. All right, oops, too fast. So this is just a graphic that we have that shows kind of where the ADRC portal exists within the larger infrastructure of the data collection and the data distribution that NAC does. And so this graphic is one that we share widely. It just shows all of the different data modalities that are coming in to NAC, as well as the existing data streams that are coming in. What we're talking about today at the submission site is the ADRC portal. And the ADRC portal is, this is one of the things that's being updated as part of this modernization of building a more multimodal, more integrated, more harmonized data set here at NAC. And so the ADRC portal exists to, allow ADRCs to, submit, collect, audit, and access, and then download their data. And that's something that's what we're launching and showing today. As part of the new updated ADRC portal, ADRCs will be able to have 3 main submission types. And so these are going to be direct data entry via REDCap. And so that's going to include a new offering from NAC, which is a hosted REDCap environment. And the hosted REDCap environment is on Amazon Web Services, and it allows all ADRCs to be able to log into a UDSv4 form set or a NAC ID form set and do their direct data entry right into REDCap without having to have a local instance. In addition, we have APIs or CLIs that allow for programmatic submission of data. This is similar to the UDSv3 way that you could submit batch files. but you can do it programmatically with APIs or CLIs. And then you can also do the bulk file upload. And so this is similar to UDSv4 as well, where you could do a batch file of your data collection at once as a CSV. And then all of those types of data will feed into the ADRC portal, where you'll be able to access that data and view it and download it as needed. So the updated feature is just kind of a recap. You're going to have what you're going to see today is modernized interfaces, a more accessible, programmatic way to interact with the ADRC portal. You'll be able to have controlled access rights. So these are things that you'll be able to control on your side, who has access. You can onboard and offboard people using the NAC directory. And then this portal is going to serve as your single source for submitting, accessing, auditing, and downloading that data. And what we're going to show today is the UDSv4 data, but additional modalities will be implemented and incorporated as NAC moves forward with the full implementation of the ADRC portals. So these are some of the modalities and kind of what the interface looks like. Oops. So you can see the buttons will look similar to this on the portal. You'll be able to submit your data. Today, we're focusing on UDS data, but as we move forward, these other data modalities will be incorporated into the portal as well. We'll have studies, we'll have your digital data, neuropathology, all of that will be accessible and able to be submitted. The UDS submission options, again, if you are using PDF, those will still be accessible and available to you, whether you're using submitting data using the portal now, or whether you're going to collect the information later as part of the live implementation. So whether you're doing it as a pilot, those PDFs have been provided to your point person if you're part of the pilot. If this is your live implementation, you're watching this later, those will be available on the NAC website as well. So then once you get your data, if you're using PDF or CSV or REDCap direct to entry, any type of EDC or any type of electronic data capture is supported. And so you'll be able to use whatever method your site has chosen or will choose to do those bulk file uploads, the API or CLI programmatic uploads, or direct data entry into NAC's hosted REDCap. So they'll all be able to be submitted through that portal. So that's kind of it for the overview. I'm going to turn this over to to Janine, who's going to show you the actual live demo of the portal.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So what I'm going to demonstrate is how you'll be able to submit data, UDSv4 pilot data to the NAC data platform. The first thing that you'll do is you'll log into the ADRC portal, and you'll use the same credentials that you use for the Scan Private QC dashboard, or if you were part of the NAC ID pilot. If you have any problems with logging in, you can ask questions at NAC Help. So once you log into the ADRC portal, the first thing you'll see are these buttons. And what I'm going to demonstrate is how to submit data. So I'm going to click on Submit Data. And then I'm going to select UDSv4 pilot. That's the only thing that is actually active at this time. So once you click that button, you'll see a screen that looks like this. And once again, you'll select UDSv4 pilot. And then you'll see the three options that are available for submitting data. The bulk file upload, the direct data entry using NAG's REDCap instance, and uploading data via API or CLI. So the first one that I'm going to show you is the bulk file upload. So I'm going to click on this button. Then you'll see a blue button down at the bottom right corner and click bulk file upload. And a screen will appear with a box where you can click and drag a file into this box for upload. And click this file. So once you've added the file, you can name this file anything you like, but the only thing that's required on this CSV file is that after the name, it's followed by the suffix -UDSv4, and then it'll know where to put the data. You'll click upload, and the file will be uploaded, and you'll immediately see the pilot feedback survey that you can fill out to, give us feedback on your experience. And if you click the link for this feedback survey, then you can use it again for the other forms of submitting data. So it'll only pop up when you select this CSV file upload, but you can save it and then refer back to it and complete it for the other types of upload. So now I'm going to go back.
I'm just going to jump in too and say that's just for the pilot. And so for those of you participating in the pilot, this, collecting that feedback is super important as part of the pilot. For the live submission site, that will not be, that, you'll be directed to a different page.
All right. I didn't go back to the page that I wanted.
There's a comment in the chat about the
I
file.
can address that really quick while Janine's getting set for the next part.
Okay.
So the file structure for the CSV is going to be really similar to the UDSv3 file structure. So it's just going to be a CSV with all of the columns of information. There will be a sample provided. So if you're a user of the pilot, or if you're a participant in the UDSv4 pilot, or if you are watching this later, there will be a sample file of the CSV that you'll have available, and you'll be able to look at all the different column headers that are required for UDSv3. So that will be provided in addition to, the data element dictionary and the guidebooks and everything else. There's another, I'm not sure if you're ready, Janine, but there's another question, so I'll answer it really quickly, which is it's one form. It's not going to be one form at a time. You'll be able to submit all the forms together simultaneously.
Okay, well, I think I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to show how to submit using REDCap. So I'm going back to this original page where you'll see when you log into the ADRC portal. And I'll click UDSv4 pilot. We'll need to click UDSv4 pilot again, and then you'll see the direct data entry using NAC's REDCap instance. So I'm going to click on that. Again, you'll go to the click the blue button, go to REDCap. We'll need to sign in to REDCap. And the first screen that you'll see is it'll ask you if you want to choose an existing record. You'll see a list of records that you have already added, or you can add a new record. And I'm going to show how you add a new record. So once you click that button, you'll see all UDS4 visits will start with an initial visit. And once you click that, you'll see all the forms that are available for that UDSv4 initial visit. First thing you'll want to do is you'll click on the form header. So in the past, if you're familiar with UDS3, we had the header on every form. We're going to have one header that applies to all the forms. So here you'll type in a PTID, and you'll choose your center name. And I'm not going to choose that for this demonstration. You'll add a visit number. This visit number can follow the scheme that you've been using for UDS3. So it doesn't need to start at 1 here. You can just continue with the scheme that you have used at your center. You'll click the initial visit because they will all be an initial visit. Click the form version is UDSv4. You'll be able to select if there are modules included. I'm going to say no on this. And then you choose the form date. It'll have today's date, or you can choose another date using the calendar. I'm going to select today's date. You can put your examiner initials in. And once the form is complete, you click the complete button, and then you can save and exit this form. I'm going to do that. Now, if there are any of the questions that are left blank, it'll show up here and let you know, and you can either say okay or ignore and leave the record. I'm going to say ignore because I didn't want to choose one of the ADRC names. So now you end up back at this page where you can select another form to complete, and you can go through each one. It indicates, by the color of the button, it shows you in the legend, the status of the form. So you can go through and complete all the forms. I'll just click on this one so that you can see you have the forms just like you're used to completing. And then I'm going to say save and exit this form. So it's showing me that all these are blank. I'm going to click ignore and go back here. So once you have completed all the forms, down at the bottom, the last row shows that how to upload this visit to the NAC data platform. So once you click that button, it'll ask you again, are you ready to upload this to the platform? If the visit is complete, you can say yes. Again, you'll say complete, and then save and exit. And now the visit will be added to the data platform. And you'll know it is added because it'll have it'll be green in the button. So now hopefully I'm going to be able to just go back again. sorry for this. I'm
All right, while Janine's getting reset, I just wanted to also note that because this is new, this NAC hosted REDCap is a new process, that the data that you submit via those REDCap direct entry forms into NAC's data set will be incorporated into the ADRC portals on a daily process. So once a day, all of those data points and all of those files will be sent over to the data platform, which is hosted in Flywheel, so that they will go through the rest of the quality control checks, just like uploaded CSV and programmatically uploaded data as well.
okay, so I'm back at the ADRC portal, clicking the UDSv4 pilot again. And the third option is uploading data via API. And if I click this button, I'll go to the documentation that shows how to submit your data to NAC using one of the programmatic upload options via API or CLI. So now I'll show you what it looks like if you click this button. You go to API documentation, and here's the documentation. And now I'm going to hand it off to our new technology lead, Shilpa Almaty, to explain how you can configure programmatic submission to NAC at your site.
Thanks, Janine. I think you need to stop sharing in order for me to share. There you go. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm just picking back up where Janine left off. This is something that typically Ben does, and I have been in this role for 2 months now. So please bear with me while I figure this out and navigate this awesome documentation that's out there for uploading your data programmatically via API or CLI. You must be familiar with this EDC documentation site. This is docs.nacdata.org. This resource was shared in the resource review earlier in Jess's PowerPoint slide. So you should have access to that. What we're going through today is basically nested under the data uploads and quality checks, uploads to NAC, and the programmatic upload option. This one is basically just a landing page that will give you a very high level overview about what options we have. Know that the site is still a work in progress and we'll update it based on feedback we receive from these pilots. What we will do today is, in your leisure time, you can go over this documentation, but essentially it's just a very high level overview, but I will dive a little bit more into detail. What you'd want to do is click on the form upload demonstrations. So when you click on that, it's going to take you to this GitHub site, GitHub documentation, where you will have more in-depth information about what options we have for API and CLI. Note that I just want to call this out, is that NAC has not built an API, but we're basically using the underlying Flywheel system for that. So that's why you see a whole ton of Flywheel all over the page. So the first option is the Flywheel SDK, which is essentially a software development kit that talks to the Flywheel API. The other option is to use a Flywheel CLI tool, which is essentially going to allow you to do transfers using the command line interface. So you can wrap that up in a script and it'll allow you to do transfers. So more in-depth in documentation as you click through these. So just a quick tour of what is on this page in and of itself. essentially high-level options of what is available to you. We have 3 strategies for uploads: a Python script, R script, and CLI from a bash script. And I'll dive into the GitHub repository in just a minute. And again, if you have any questions about these and what you should use, we've talked about a little bit of that, but you also should always feel free to reach out to us through nachelp@uw.edu or through the discourse platform. I know I said a lot there, so I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to dive into the GitHub repository. All right. All right, so in the GitHub repository, basically what I did is I just went to this high level README, which is what this is. No, not that. This is. So if you see, this is the README that is open right now in my GitHub view. This is where the code is. So there are 3 examples that I will get into in a moment, but right now for high level, to try this API option, you would want to download or clone this repository. And there's a link here to the GitHub instructions for cloning that repo. Also, there is some information on Docker, which is what you'll need to use if you're using Windows. And there are some tricks to making that work. All of that is documented here, hopefully. You will also need an API key, which I will show you in a moment how to get that in Flywheel. But in the meantime, let's first go through the Python uploader option. Again, 3 options: Python, R, CLI, all have a similar kind of a structure. So I'll walk you through one of them and the other should sort of follow the same setup. So, okay, switching to the Python option. I already have that open here. All right, so for the Python uploader, we have 2 details that'll need to be set. The first one is to set the center option. So each center has groups set up in Flywheel, and this first setting basically tells Flywheel what group or center the transfer will be associated to. So you will give us your ADC ID, which you can find in your current portal, and that'll be used to map to the appropriate Flywheel group. Again, if you have difficulty with this, finding the ADC ID for your center or any of that, just reach out to us. The second setting is for setting up the pipeline. And know that this will vary a lot based on what you're doing. So these parameters will vary. And to set up this pipeline, you want to use this Python uploader file. If you see on the left pane, I'm navigating down to this uploader.py file, which is where you will update this specific command for upload project. There is some information here on what needs to be uploaded, but this is where I would listen carefully if you're intending to do or try out the API for this pilot study. The data type is currently set to form, which is correct. The pipeline type will need to be updated to ingest, which is what this is noted down here. But the study ID will not be ADRC, it will be UDSv4 pilot, all one word, all lowercase. And we'll, if needed, we'll update this documentation to reflect that, but that is only for the pilot. Know that when you're actually doing this outside of the pilot permanently, those parameters will change. And again, we're always available as a resource to reach out to if you have questions. I know it's confusing. It's a lot to keep track of. Again, reminder, the other 2 demos for the R and CLI are similar in structure, so you shouldn't have any trouble with that. Okay. Okay, now I promised you I'd show you about the API key. So to get the API key, well, there's documentation on how to use the API key and all of that good stuff. But to get the API key, the steps are outlined here, but I'll also show you where to go get that in Flywheel. So you would basically log into Flywheel, and then your view is going to look very different from mine. I have access to a little too much, but your view will look different, so don't worry about that. So what you do is on the top right corner where your initials are, you would go click on that, go to profile, and scroll down all the way up to the bottom, where you have an option to generate an API key. I clearly haven't used an API key, so I don't have any listed out here, but when you generate one, it's going to show up here at the bottom. And they can be generated for different purposes. If you see Ben's demo, he's going to have a couple of them already generated. I just don't have any set up right now. You can set when they expire, and it'll also keep track of when they were last used. But more detail on how to use the API key is available here in the top level README. I know that's a lot, that's overwhelming, but that's all I got for the API. This is high level, but once you're in here and you click around and navigate, you'll see more in-depth information. That's it for me.
All right, thanks so much, Shilpa. That was a great overview. I know that's a highly anticipated feature, so we're all excited to see it and be able to start getting people into it as well. The next thing we're going to talk about before we talk about next steps and open it up for Q&A is just for those of you who are using a local REDCap instance. You might be wondering, how can I get access to this? Is this going to be easy for me to implement? And the answer is you are going to have access and it will be easy to implement. If you were lucky enough to go to the ADRC meeting this spring, you were able to see a video of how long it takes to set up UDSv4 forms in your local REDCap instance. It's very quick. So I wanted to show you, because we do have that available. If you are using the pilot, you will be able to use the XML files to be able to implement a local test pilot instance of the UDSv4 forms. I wanted to show you where the documentation for it is for that, and to also be able to just assure you that you will be getting those files as part of the follow-up if you're in the pilot. If you're not in the pilot, you're watching this for production later, those files will be available for download on the EDC docs website as well. So just show you what that looks like. So this is what our docs website looks like. This is also where the forms will be able to be downloaded in PDF, as well as data crosswalks, etc. All the other supportive documentation and SOPs are on the site. That's where Shilpa just was with the API information and the CLI code. But for this particular, what we're talking about now, setting this up as your local REDCap instance, there are specific instructions step-by-step to guide you through downloading that XML file, importing it into your local REDCap instance, and being able to test it. There's also a video that goes through this step-by-step and shows you each click and each choice that you have to make. So that is fully supported, and it will be able to be implemented at your local site. All right, so let's talk about next steps. Those are the ways that you can submit data, some of the resources that are available. So what's coming next? So if you are participating in the UDSv4 pilot, which is going on right now, you will be getting some follow-ups after this training so that you're able to start getting in and using the submission site. The things that you're going to want to watch for are you will get a pilot-only account from that local or from that hosted NAC hosted REDCap instance. So you want to watch for that email to set up that account, right? Just for the pilot, you'll need a separate REDCap account to get into NAC's direct entry REDCap. Then you're going to want to follow the rest of the instructions that you receive from NAC to engage with the pilot. So be able to submit data, get your test users, and be able to provide that feedback from your site using a feedback form. Another thing you may want to try is we are also piloting, as we talked about earlier, that discourse moderated forum where you can interact with other folks from your other ADRCs, kind of see what questions they have, and NAC is also moderating that, so answering questions and facilitating those connections. There's information already there waiting for you, so there's some FAQs already there. If you have if you want to add to it though, you'll be able to do that. And then you're going to want to make sure that you can log into the ADRC portal. So as one of your follow-ups, you'll be receiving your ADRC specific link to your portal that will go, put your data in the right project in Flywheel and allow you to access and upload your data. So those are kind of the next steps if you are participating in the pilot. If you're a non-pilot submission user, you're watching this later, the pilot feedback will have already been incorporated or will be incorporated by August. And so you'll be seeing a finalized version. There might be some slight changes on interfaces and flow just based on the feedback that we get, that NAC gets as part of this pilot. And then you'll also just need to watch for more information as far as when the submission site gets opened up more widely and is more broadly accessible. So there will be additional trainings as that gets closer and additional communications coming from NAC, as well as ADRCs will have a chance to get in and have a sandbox environment where they'll be able to set up those API submissions that if that's something that you're interested in using, that you'll have had a chance to test it before you have to submit all of your data using that method. So just a couple of things to watch for, since I know you're getting lots of emails from NAC. This is what the hosted REDCap email looks like. So you'll want to watch for that. It's going to say signature required, NAC REDCap account policy, and it's just going to have you agree to use that. And then the other thing you might see if you're the pilot user is this email from Discourse. So if you want to participate, we do really encourage you to try the moderated forum. And that email will look like this. You just accept the policies and then you'll be able to log in and see what's in there, as well as engage with your other ADRC members. And then, of course, support along the way. We want you to feel supported and get help if you need it. And so if you have technical issues, login access, links are broken, site navigation questions, you can always reach out to our dedicated support email, nachelp@uw.edu. If you want to engage in that discourse forum, we also are going to be providing a link in the follow-ups, but this is the link to NAC's hosted forum on, or not hosted, moderated forum on Discourse. So that is the content for today. We're going to open it up for questions next. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll go through the chat. We have several NAC team members here. Hopefully we can get through all the questions. If we are not able to get through all of the questions today, we're going to also send those in the follow-ups and post them on the forum. So you'll be able to see them there as well.
Hi, Jess. There are a couple questions in the chat about how errors will be communicated back to the centers once they submit data, if they do it through that Flywheel form on REDCap. And I know that during the pilot, we're not going to have any error checks, so it's not something you need to be concerned about for the pilot itself, but wondering if the tech team has anything about how they're going to be communicated once we do implement them at this point, or if that's still in development.
That's still in development. I don't have an answer to that right now.
I could just also add that the error checks have been a hot topic of discussion among the EDC work group that has been helping to implement and develop all of these resources. And so, so far, the error checks that are going to be available once the production portal is up and running are going to be a lot more descriptive and have a lot more interaction than the previous version. So we're looking forward to providing more information as soon as it's available for distribution. Also saw a question about the recording and the slides. Those will, the slides from this presentation, those will be available and distributed as part of the follow-ups. All right, looks like our amazing staff have been going through and answering all the questions, or a lot of the questions. Let's see if there are any that still need an answer. And if you're a staff, if you're looking at it, if you see one, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I have a quick question. On the flywheel interface, if you close the page that has the upload options, how do you get that back again?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the navigation between the kind of flywheel projects and the portal is available through the projects kind of drop down in the flywheel interface. So there's one called portal, and so you can get back to that that submission interface just by clicking that portal link. Let's see if I can show it.
Got it. Okay, I see it. Thank you.
Oh, you saw it. Okay. I see a question about the knowing about the errors and alerts prior to going live. And I think I don't know, Catherine, do you know how those are those going to be provided as an information file?
They will be, eventually posted. We want to make them super transparent, so we'll post like a kind of an English written out version, like a CSV, that you can read, as well as the code that Chandima will be using to actually implement the checks, all on GitHub for everybody. But the issue is that we're still we're like halfway through them. We cannot share them because we're not done. And once the pilot is over, we will have to make changes, in response to pilot feedback. So they're just not ready, which is why we haven't shared them yet.
Thanks. There's a question about the data dictionary release date, and if you're a pilot user, you will have already received the data dictionary, I believe. And for non-pilot users, we're going to release the final, correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, but the final data dictionary after any changes or updates from the pilot have been released or incorporated, sorry.
Yeah, so for the pilot users right now, only the REDCap data dictionary is ready. Next week sometime should be when we release the non-REDCap data element dictionary that removes a lot of the HTML and stuff that's in the REDCap one. But again, that's one of those things where we're just releasing it to pilot users right now because this will also change in response to any changes during the pilot. So we're trying not to say things are ready and release them and then have you make all these changes and then have you make changes after that.
There's also a question about FTLD and LDB modules. I'm not sure what is the question about submission of them or how they'll be submitted. Submission, okay. So for submission of FTLD and LDB, sorry, modules. Catherine, is that something you have an answer to? Or
No.
is that a tech team question?
I think that's a tech team
Okay.
question.
Okay,
Which I am not equipped to answer. I'm sorry. That might have
Okay.
to, we'll take that back and get back to you on it.
Yeah, all I know I can tell you is that they're not changing or anything, but we haven't built them in REDCap, so it may be sometime before that is, there's an official NAC REDCap version for those. But yeah, all of that needs to be discussed with the tech team.
they will be submitted the same ways. They may not all be available day one. So it's possible that those will be CSV first or API first, and then REDCap form at a later time. So they're on the timeline, they're just not finalized as far as delivery dates yet. There's a question about flywheel access. So you will get flywheel access provided to you by your administrator at your center, and they will administer that through the NAC directory, and they can do that at any time. And if you need any help, we have the instructions for that, or they can always reach out for help.
There's a question about documentation about the differences between version 3 and version 4. And this is something that the EDC requirements group is working on really carefully. They're building these crosswalks between the versions so that you have information about the variables, whether they're staying the same, changing, and how to translate that in your database between versions. So those will be released, probably around the same time as we release like the official data element dictionaries and everything once the requirements group gets through those.
Yep. There's a question about the REDCap account that's for the pilots. If you are assigned a pilot REDCap account, you will be able to use it for both projects. Sorry, both pilots, the UDSv4 and the NAC ID pilot. And the crosswalks are scheduled, so they're being finalized and like formatted for consistency across all of the crosswalks for every single form right now. And the plan is to release those when the final versions of the data element dictionary, so those will come out together. And the plan is also to have a programmatic version of the data, or sorry, of the crosswalks, so that if you are looking to harmonize your data set, that you'll have a programmatic way to do that as well. If you have a question about draft crosswalks, please use my email to reach out to me directly, and I can answer those directly. All right, we have a couple more minutes. Anybody has any last minute questions? All right, I'm not seeing anything come in, so I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you to all of you for tuning in today for this preview submission training. We really appreciate your active engagement, and appreciate if you are part of the CTF or the EDC who has helped, get us to this point and develop all these resources. And thanks to all the NAC staff who have put in all the time to get all of this set up and present this information today. We appreciate all of you so much. So watch for next steps and communications coming from NAC, and yeah, let us know what you think, and we look forward to moving forward together on this. Thanks, everybody.